Welcome to episode 126 of Fit Strong Women Over 50. Hi, I'm Jill. Welcome to the podcast for the Becoming Ellie community. Thank you for joining us.
The Becoming Ellie community is for women over 50 who are interested in being fit and strong. You can find us at Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and Instagram.
Chris and I came up with the name of Becoming Ellie because Ellie was the Norse goddess of aging who defeated Thor in a wrestling match. We decided we wanted to become like Ellie.
Yes, and it's not always easy, but we try to be fit and strong. Hey, Jill, can you believe that this is episode 126 and we just had our 5-year anniversary? Wow, a big shout out and a special thank you to all our listeners.
Yes, indeed. 5 years? That's amazing. You know, some of our listeners have wanted to leave a review for us, but weren't sure how to do it. There are different directions depending on where you are listening to the podcast.
I listen on Apple Podcasts. To leave a review, you just open up the app, search Fit Strong Women, and our podcast will come up. Then click on the photo and scroll all the way to the bottom. Click on the link, write a review, and it's that easy.
The Android apps are all different, but Spotify lets you rate a podcast, give it stars. I didn't see anything about reviews. The good thing, though, is that you have to actually listen to the podcast on Spotify before you can rate it, which prevents you from just, thinking, oh, I hate that person and clicking on their podcast. 1 star.
Hopefully we don't have any haters.
No, we don't. So everyone would be happy to give us 5 stars, I know, but you have to actually listen to it before you can rate it. Thanks in advance for reviewing our podcast and telling your friends about us.
Hey, Jill, I'm really excited about today's episode. Hope Zvara is very inspirational, and I think our listeners are really going to enjoy it.
Yes, she's full of good ideas. Let's get started. On to the podcast. Hope Zvara is the CEO of Mother Trucker Yoga. She helps truck drivers go from a sedentary lifestyle to feeling good again with small, simple changes from the cab of the truck. Although she works with a lot of men, she spent the first 18 years of her career working with women between the ages of 45 to 65. And now, even though women only make up 10% of the trucking industry, they are her loyal clients.
Hope says, showing drivers how they can take care of their bodies, minds, and spirits with small, simple changes that they can apply every day while living over the road is a huge win for them. With the right tools and strategies, fitness at any age does not have to be complicated. And if women can take their health back from the cab of a truck, then everyday women can do anything.
Welcome, Hope. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. I'm so excited to be here today.
So I guess let's just start with, how did you get started with yoga?
I always like to say yoga found me. I was struggling with addiction and anxiety and depression when in my late teens. And I don't want to say that I kind of lost hope, but I think the people around me just kind of were like, I don't know what else to do for her. And then one day at work, I was working as a lifeguard part-time. One of my colleagues looked at me and said, "You look like somebody that would practice yoga." And I believe sometimes we have those moments in our lives where things just click. And that was the moment where I was like, yoga. I don't even think I ever heard that word prior to that moment, but I went home, I researched a class, I found one in the town neighboring me, and I showed up. I was half the age of everybody else, but something happened that day in that yoga class. And when I rolled up my mat and walked out the door, I remember feeling something that I had not felt in years. My mind was clear. I was calm. I felt normal. And although that feeling didn't last very long, I kept going back, and my Wednesday night yoga class became my weekly ritual of second chances. And those second chances eventually led me to taking a yoga training, and then eventually led me to opening my own studio and then training teachers. And it just grew and grew and grew. And I was attracting people, mainly women at the time, that were kind of struggling with a lot of the same things I was: body image, worthiness, feeling like they're not good enough, trying to strengthen themselves, trying to take care of themselves, but never really having the right guidance. And as I grew my yoga studio, my yoga practice, I always felt like I was meant for more. I felt like this isn't the only thing I'm supposed to be doing in my life. And then 5 years ago, an opportunity dropped in my lap. I was at a business mixer here in my small Wisconsin hometown. And I start talking to this guy and I'm trying to pitch him corporate yoga. And he looks at me and says, do you have anything for truck drivers? Like in the cab of the truck. And I think I'm funny sometimes. And I threw up my hands and I said, Mother Trucker Yoga. Just trying to get a rise out of this guy. And he sticks out his hand and says, that's brilliant. You want to go into business together? We shook on it.
Oh my.
I know. We shook on it. He called me the next day. 4 months later, we had built a business from scratch. And a year later, I bought him out of the business because I was really doing everything. And it was kind of my vision. I think he was my gateway. And for the last 5 years, I've helped thousands of drivers change lanes in their health and fitness, all based on the same principles that helped me get into recovery. This idea of small, simple changes, breaking down these big concepts that loom around health and wellness and fitness that make people feel like that's never attainable for them. Or they go all in and then they, drop off because it's too much to take on. And for truck drivers, they have limited resources. They are in a small confined area. They don't have access to Whole Foods or Target or Amazon whenever they want. So they really have to have simple, easy to follow strategies. And I always think if drivers can do it, man, anyone can do it.
Well, that's what I was thinking about. The life of truck drivers, I think of them sitting behind a wheel for hours and hours each day, in the small spaces with limited mobility, lots of aches and pains. And so how are you able to help truck drivers? I mean, it's a very small area.
Yeah. So, I went from the yoga world, working with people on a yoga mat and a yoga studio, and translating that really became kind of a fun little challenge for me. And I kind of saw the dots connect when I met my former business partner that night. It was like the lights went on. The main way I work with drivers is online. We have a membership site. And so the premise of this is short, tiny little moves. My thought is always, if it takes more than 5 minutes, I'm not going to show you how to do it. And really, if it takes more than a minute, I'm not going to show you how to do it, because we all live busy lives. And I believe that the majority of America, the reason why we're obese and unfit and unhealthy isn't because we don't want to be fit and healthy. It's because the way that fitness and health has been delivered up to this point is like this big box you have to pull off the shelf. You have to have the perfect time, the perfect clothes, the perfect environment. And if that doesn't fit into your day, we just say, well, I guess I can't do that. And so for truck drivers, I really recognize that it needed to be fast, easy, and it needed to be able to be incorporated into their everyday life. So a lot of the stuff I'm teaching is like, here's some things you can do in the driver's seat, even while driving, to help reduce back pain or to help keep circulation into your legs. Here's something that you can do discreetly while you're filling up with fuel that looks like you're tying your shoe, but really you're stretching your hamstrings. Here's something easy to do right in the sleeper, which is their bed in the cab of the truck, to help you fall asleep faster. That takes 30 seconds. And so if we can learn, I think just as a whole, on how to add more fitness and movement and health into our day, throughout our day, at the end of the day, we're going to have moved and had activity 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. And if you do go to the gym, if you do go for a run, if you do go to yoga, to me, that's bonus. And I have seen this approach change drivers' lives of all ages. And I think this is something we all can apply to improve our health.
Truck drivers are often in very bad physical shape. So if you get them to do this,
spots, yeah, that's for sure.
And well, even if we're not driving a truck, many of us end up traveling and for long periods of time,
or just sitting behind a computer for hours and hours and hours
right.
a day.
That's what I was thinking about. Right.
So, what kind of advice do you give us on either stretching, or what would you tell us to do?
Yeah. So this is universal for everyone, whether you're a truck driver, a school teacher, someone in tech. Set an alarm on your phone with a different sound every 30 minutes to 60 minutes. You don't want it to be the same as your phone or like your alarm to wake up. It has to be something else. So you associate that sound with movement. And so if you have an alarm going off every 30 minutes to 60 minutes, and it's like, oh, okay, I have to do, 5 pelvic tilts in the driver's seat, or I need to roll my shoulders 20 times. I mean, these might seem really basic, but think about the men and women that that are 70, 80, and 90. They can't even do those basic things. They can't even get up out of a chair without help. They're no longer getting down on the ground. They can't put their shoes on. It hurts to get out of the chair. They can't lift their arms up overhead. These are what I call the essential movements of life, which is squatting, reaching, bending, and twisting. And so when you set that alarm on your phone, I don't care how you move, but it's a motivation and a reminder for the next 30 seconds, just move your body, whether you know a move or just roll your wrists, roll your ankles, turn your head side to side. The reality is we're just not doing that enough. And that a lot of times is the reason why we're in pain, why we're not feeling good. And I don't know about you ladies, but when I feel stiff, when I feel sore, and when I don't feel good physically, my initial response is don't move because it hurts. Which is really, right. It's our body's natural alarm system to say, you need to move, you need to move, you need to move.
It's the opposite of how we should think, right? But we do think that way. That's crazy.
We do. And so set an alarm on your phone to remind you to move. The second thing is you don't need a million moves. What you need is 2 or 3 or 4 really good ones that you can do every single day throughout the day. So we as a culture sit too much. So one of my favorite go-to moves is the pelvic tilt, where you're just sitting tall and you're just arcing your back as much as you can and then rounding your back and pulling your belly in. And you're doing that for 3, 4, 5, 10 times until you feel that really improved mobility. Now, for drivers, a big portion of their health issues revolves around their lower body, lower back pain, poor circulation. They have a tendency for increased UTIs because of all of that sitting and all of that blood pooling into their pelvis. So a simple move like a pelvic tilt can drastically change the game for them. That I don't know about you, but when I travel and you've been sitting too long and then you get out of the car and you're like, give me a second. I got to unfreeze my body.
I always say I have to unfold.
So these are things that can change that. So set an alarm, try to find 2 or 3 moves that you can incorporate into the day that can be kind of your go-to, make them automatic, like brushing your teeth. And the last thing is find time within your day, break it down into 5-minute pieces where you can get up and walk. Walking still is the number one exercise that everybody can do to improve their health. It is, and in my mind, it always will be. And we're complicating fitness. We're making it think we need these fancy, resistance bands and these complicated gadgets and gizmos. You got legs, use them. And so for drivers, 32 laps around their truck and trailer is a mile. So that might think 32, that's a lot. Well, think about it this way. In the morning, do 2 or 3. When you stop to get fuel in the afternoon, do 2 or 3. When you're on your 30-minute break, do 2 or 3. When you park for the night, do 2 or 3. That's 20 right there. For a layperson that's not a truck driver, where can you find time? We all talk on the phone, and how many of us just sit on our couch and chat with our best girlfriend or our sister or our mom? Walk around the house. Walk around your house. Walk up and down the stairs 10 times. Find those spots to fit in movement. Most of the time when we say we're too busy to exercise, we're looking at exercise the wrong way. Try to marry movement to things you're already doing, and you are going to find a drastic change in your health. And as we age, we often blame age on the reason why we feel unhealthy, on the reason why we're in pain. But really, in my experience, the reason why we feel that as we age is because we're not doing the things that we should be doing as we get older for any reason. And so I've worked with women and men from 8 months old to 89 years old. And it always comes back to one thing. We need to move more in our everyday life.
Wow, that's great. That's so true. On your website, it says that you like to share your toolbox for health and happiness. And what are some of those tools that might help our listeners, women over 50 who want to be fit and strong?
Yeah, so I call it my toolbox because it's not just yoga. It's not just fitness. It's not just, working out. It's this idea of practical strategies. And so some of those tools really require simple things like setting an alarm on your phone. Another one is doing a little bit of meditation every single day. And now I'm not talking about 30 minutes of meditation, you on a cushion saying Om Namah Shivaya. I'm talking about you closing your eyes and for 30 seconds, just breathing. That's meditation. We live in this high-paced society where it's go, go, go for so many people, especially women, because we're always caring for everybody else. We're so outside our body that when we even think about self-care, it like gives us anxiety. For me, I've learned this firsthand as someone that has struggled with mental health for a big portion of my life. Having that time out where you just close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths and think about nothing else other than your breathing, I feel like I can think more clearly and make better choices after that. And so using your phone as an alarm to remind yourself, having those 30-second meditation breaks, having those 3 or 4 moves that you can do throughout the day and sprinkle them in. And I think the last piece is having someone to hold you accountable. For years, I struggled to get into recovery because I kept my struggles a secret. Everyone thought I was just fine. And the moment that I opened up and I was like, I'm not okay. I think I need more help than I currently have. And I had someone in my corner that knew, that could check in on me and say, hey, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? Became a big game changer. And so as we get older, especially for women, it's like, we don't want to burden people with our struggles, or we don't want to make people think that like, oh, you have your own life. Like, right. We're always trying to discount ourselves. Find someone that you can do this with. Find someone to hold you accountable. Let them in on what you're trying to do for yourself so that you can rise up to live that quality life that you want to live. And I've noticed working with drivers in the last 5 years, that's a big piece of it. It's a lonely job. And for many drivers, when they start taking care of their health, there's a lot of shame that goes into that from other people. Oh, you're one of those people. Oh, Mountain Dew hasn't killed me yet. Oh, I smoke a pack a day. Why do you even care about that? Like, there's a lot of this like poo-pooing on those drivers that want to take care of their health. So if you have someone in your corner that says, don't listen to them, that says, I'm doing this with you, we can do this, you're going to be that much more successful to reach your goals, regardless of what they are.
Yeah. Community really does make a difference, doesn't it?
Huge.
I understand you were named one of the top women entrepreneurs in 2023 by LA Weekly.
Yes.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
In that article, it mentions your simple approach to fitness called the 15-minute wellness method. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So if you notice, everything I've shared so far has all been short and small and sweet. Yeah. And so in my mind, if it takes longer than 15 minutes, the majority of the population is just not going to do it. And so my whole approach with drivers is small, little bite-sized things. And often when they get started with me, my goal for them is 15 minutes of movement sprinkled in throughout the day, every single day, and trying to build them up, kind of build a muscle for movement that oftentimes after 30 days or 6 weeks working together, they've like blown the 15-minute rule out of the water. But fitness for many people, if they've never had exercise and working out is like a norm for them, it's a really big, overwhelming concept. When I first started teaching yoga, people were like, you have 75-minute yoga classes. What do you even do for 75 minutes? It was like their minds were just like, I don't think I can handle that. And so just starting really small and building up that muscle for success often keeps us coming back for more. When I work with drivers, one of the things I've seen that has become very clear to me, and I think as a society as a whole, we struggle with this, is many drivers are living on the verge of dehydration. I have spoken with some drivers where they can't remember the last time they drank water. And so here we are telling drivers, you need to drink 8 cups of water a day or half your body weight in ounces, which is absolutely true. But for somebody that has never drank water in 2 years, that's really overwhelming. And so this whole idea of the 15-minute wellness method, small, simple changes, is to break things down into bite-sized pieces so people can feel successful quicker and build momentum faster. I would much rather have a driver drink 1 bottle of water every single day than drink 8 bottles of water for 1 week and then be like, this is so hard, I can't do this. And then just go right back to where they started.
Right.
And so it's about those small steps.
Sort of building up to that. That just makes a lot of sense, building up to it. Well, I like how you said build a muscle for movement. That just makes sense. And build a muscle for drinking water, because it is hard to start.
I was going to ask you if you have your drivers use any tracking things, because right now I'm tracking my water consumption on my Fitbit. And I'll tell you what, when I first started it, I was like, I'm not drinking nearly enough water. It is hard.
Yeah. It's for me, especially in the winter, because it's cooler and, I'm not sweaty. I don't feel thirsty.
So anyway, do you have them track?
Yes, I encourage all of my drivers to track their water intake, to track sometimes their steps, although some of the trackers, even like Fitbits or like the smartwatches, because there is still enough impact when they're driving, oftentimes it triggers a response that they're walking and they're really not. And so that's why it's like trying to give them time markers. Walk for 5-minute bouts 3 times a day. Do, work up to X amount of laps around your truck so that they can have different ways of tracking these things.
Yeah.
Because sometimes technology fails for them in that situation.
They're like, oh, I sat in my truck all day and I have 10,000 steps.
Right. It's like, oh, I didn't even do anything. And that's great. But even basic things like a food journal. I don't keep a food journal per se, but when I started trying to self-reflect on my diet and things I was putting in my mouth, I have some food allergies. Sometimes in our minds, we think we're doing something or not doing something until we actually hold ourselves accountable and track it. Do we realize, oh, I may have only been eating 2 meals every day, but oh, wow, that's where those chips went. Or I guess I am, popping little things in my mouth. Or I just was eating grapes all day, but they're loaded with sugar. Like all these little things. And until you can see it, it often doesn't become real. And so I highly recommend to drivers, or really anyone that's trying to make a lifestyle change. I believe that you can't change something that you don't know exists. And so how do we create awareness? We have to write it down. We have to pay attention. We need someone holding us accountable that can be that mirror for us, because then we have a foundation where we're like, yeah, that's not good. Oh, I guess I am smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. That's not a good thing. I guess I was never really aware because I just buy them whenever. Like that trackability really helps create accountability.
Right. You mentioned a little bit about a food journal. What about food? Like eating on the go, I know is difficult, and there's so many unhealthy options, like at every convenience stop or anytime you are around. How do you help your clients with their food?
Yeah. And again, I'm a simple gal. I don't like complicated. I also believe in consistency and moderation. And so everyone else might be saying you need to do keto, or you need to do the Mediterranean diet, or you need to never eat sugar ever again. I'm saying find a happy medium of moderation where you can literally have your cake and eat it too. And so the approach with drivers that I take is quite simple in the beginning. 1, teaching them how to read food labels. I'm not talking about the fat, protein, and carbs. I often have them go right to the ingredients and look at what is in their food. Those first 3 ingredients are the main ingredients that make up that food that you're eating. And if it's not real food, don't eat it. And for many of my drivers, this has been a game changer for them. One of my drivers, Dean Key, he was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever read this part of the label ever. And he became obsessed, and he's like, I can't believe how many things appear to be healthy on the front. And then on the back, the first ingredient is sugar, or the first ingredient is maltodextrin. And it's like, or it's, refined wheat.
High fructose corn syrup. Right.
He was like blown away at this concept. For other drivers, it's something as simple as you're living on the road. And I don't think anytime soon, Wendy's and McDonald's and Arby's are going to be leaving the truck stops. But what I have discovered is you can make the menu work for you. And so one of the things I turn my drivers onto, and I practice this as well, is when you go to these fast food restaurants, they want to serve you. They want to help you. Request a special item. Ask them for a burger with no bun. If there's no salad on the menu, guess what? Every one of those fast food joints has lettuce, tomato, and onion. Ask them to make you up a small side salad, grilled chicken instead. And so trying to show them some basic swap outs that they can do to feel empowered to make healthy choices. And when you do those things, have a fry, but have a small fry. You don't need an extra large. If you're going to have a soda, have a small soda, but drink a bottle of water first. And as we make these changes, we're going to crave less sugar. We're going to crave less of all of those artificial flavors and artificial fillers, and we're going to feel better. It's a loop. So when I feel good, I make good choices. When I make good choices, it helps me feel good. When I feel good, I want to make more good choices. And when I make more good choices, I'm going to feel even better. And we just get caught in this great loop. And this can apply to everybody.
And I suppose that the inverse is true too. That's why people spiral out of control. If you make poor choices, so you don't feel good, so then you make poor choices.
You kind of just go whatever, and so you don't make good choices, and you get caught in this loop.
You can go either way, but yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I know you've had a number of drivers who've had a lot of success working with you. And you told us about one of your drivers, Cheryl, who lost over 100 pounds, quit smoking, and now cooks her meals from the cab of her truck. Wow. I just told you what she did, but how'd you get her there?
Yeah. So Cheryl is what we call a team driver. Her and her husband drive together. They've been driving for, I think, 10 years or so. And her and her husband have collectively lost over 100 pounds at this point.
Wow.
And when I first started working with them, I think it was 3 years ago, Cheryl and her husband were kind of struggling to quit smoking, and were kind of in and out of that, and had just felt like fitness and wellness was never going to be attainable from the cab of the truck. And I think for many women, we feel that way. We feel like our circumstances and our environment are determining our level of success when it comes to our health. And so the whole approach with Cheryl, I think this is what probably attracted her to our program and to working with Mother Trucker Yoga and myself, is I kind of told her, forget about everything that you know. And we started from scratch. And my focus was building lifestyle skills. And instead of being like, you got to follow this workout program, it's an hour every day, you need to lift weights 3 times a week, you need to follow this meal program, I was like, forget about all of that. That's all bonus. If you get there, great. If you don't, that's okay too. And it's been everything we were talking about. Find those small pockets of time to move more, up your water intake. And so in the beginning, her husband did not love drinking water. And so steering her towards some things that she can put in the water that improve flavor and kind of help drink it was a great motivator for him to start getting on board with this. And then also showing her, some of the things, some of the food that she needs to be eating, because she's so nutritionally deficient. That's why she's craving all these sweets. That's why she's craving all this junk food. It's again, that loop we talked about. And it's all of these small, simple changes. And the biggest one was her starting to cook on the truck.
Now, how does that happen? I just can't picture it.
I know. So every driver has different circumstances. If they drive for a company, they might not be allowed to have certain things on the truck. Their truck may be a little bit smaller or bigger. And so there's lots of reasons why drivers may or may not cook on the truck. But for Cheryl, she really, once she learned what was in her food, once she started seeing how much better she felt when she was eating healthy, she was like, I got to figure this out. And so she started just experimenting with small things like a little Foreman grill, making grilled chicken, having a little burner and sauteing vegetables. And then she started getting more and more creative with doing rice and having little slow cookers. The great thing is that in the trucking world, there's cookware specifically made for drivers to help with the impact over the road, things that are able to be secured to the small tables that they have in the back of the cab of the truck. And so a lot what you'd see in like a small New York kitchen is really been converted with special plugs and special outlets that they can be cooking right on the truck. Things like overnight oats. It might just seem like, oh yeah, that's something, of course people make that. But that's never occurred to a driver that they can do that it can be cooking for them while they're driving down the road, or making a basic soup, or even just something as simple as chicken and rice with vegetables. It seems so big and complicated until someone shows them how to do it. So one of the things I love doing with drivers is I own a lot of this cookware. I'm showing them what it is that they can cook in the cab of their truck. I'm shopping at the truck stop just like they are, showing them how to combine foods together that are just on the everyday shelves, that they can make a healthy meal when they might not have access to a Walmart or a Target or a Costco, because sometimes for some drivers, they may not be able to stop at those types of things for weeks. especially if they're an over-the-road truck driver where they're out for 6 months at a time or they're out for 3 months at a time. And so it's these small, simple changes. And it's that cycle we talked about. Cheryl started drinking more water. She stopped smoking, so she started feeling better. Cheryl started moving more with basic, small little exercises at first, and that boosted her confidence. So then she wanted to do more. So then she got resistance bands and she started pulling on them while her husband was driving, just doing bicep curls. She didn't know what she was doing, but she's like, I'm going to do something. Then she started eating healthier and she was like, I think I can make this myself. And she started experimenting. She was willing to break out of the cycle that she was stuck in, because she realized that she, in fact, is in the driver's seat of her own health and wellness. And for everybody listening, if there's anything you walk away from this episode, it's to know that you are in the driver's seat of your health and wellness. There are choices, opportunities, and decisions that you can make every single day. They might seem super small, but every day, if you do them consistently, if only every day you get 1% better, at the end of the year, that's 365% improvement.
Wow.
And that to me is a game changer.
That's the way to think of it, isn't it? 1% better. Yeah, that's wild.
Makes it more tangible. It makes it easier. It's like, I can do 1% better today.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you mentioned another truck driver that you help, Marlene, who walks every day now and has more confidence and has lost 30 pounds. So can you tell us, how do you help them with motivation? Is it like just knowledge, but how do you motivate? Because sometimes knowing things and then doing things are different.
Absolutely. I like to think it's my personality, but
it probably is.
Really, it's being in their ear and being their cheerleader. If there's anything that I've learned about life is, one, I'm so grateful that I have mine, because I almost lost mine many years ago to poor health choices and poor life choices, and just feeling like I wasn't worth it. And I understand the value of taking that back and taking, kind of the driver's seat again in your own life and what that can do for you. A lot of people just thought, she's going to wither away and just kind of fall off. And I really did the exact opposite. And I do have yoga to thank for that. And I think the piece that I take from yoga and kind of break down and translate for my drivers is the self-ownership.
Okay.
Is that you are the one every single day deciding to do good or not, deciding to put that piece of food in your mouth or not, is deciding to put on your shoes and go outside and walk for 10 minutes because you forgot to or not. You are in the driver's seat. And so a lot of times, my drivers are following me on social media. They're inside our membership site and I'm cheering them on. I'm sharing strategies and techniques, but a lot of times I'm just reminding them that they're worth it. I'm reminding them that they're good enough. I'm reminding them that they can do this and that every little success, no matter how small, is worthy. For a lot of the drivers I work with, they just feel like they're not. They feel beat up. They feel like overlooked. I'm not a truck driver. My dad is not a truck driver, but I watched him my entire upbringing. He's a sewer pipe layer. Him break his body, him look at everybody else's needs and priorities over his own. And he ended up sacrificing his physical health and really his mental health for that. And now he's in his 60s and it's hard for him to move around. It's hard for him to get upstairs. It's difficult for him to get a full night's sleep. And that's always my deep motivation to remind these men and women and also myself and even my children that you have to take care of yourself. I always think replacement parts are never as good as the originals. And so let's pay attention to the originals and let's honor ourselves and celebrate those little wins. And if I can be that person in somebody's ear, that little birdie on their shoulder saying, just get up and move. You'll never regret it. And they do it and they feel good. That to me is a win.
That's great.
In one of your emails, you mentioned that you have a free guide, 11 stretches you need to do to feel good again. One, where do we download that guide? But also, can you tell us what some of the stretches are?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I have the guide on my website and I'm happy to provide you with the link for it for your listeners. And these are things that anybody can do, but really it's just kind of head to toe the body. So we overuse our hands and wrists for drivers, that repetitive strain of gripping, or if they're driving a manual, the constant clutch and stick shift is giving them carpal tunnel, arthritis in the thumb. For those of us that work at home or at a desk job, the constant typing, the constant texting. We're getting trigger finger, we're getting all these issues. And so for drivers, it's utilizing their steering wheel and just stretching the fingers against the steering wheel and the wrists. For those of us at home, it's extending one arm out in front, keeping that elbow straight, and then pulling back on the fingertips and thumb and pushing through the heel of the hand. We do so much flexion in our hands and wrists throughout the day. You need to do the opposite and extend. And so trying to sprinkle in movements like that. I call it the seatbelt twist. Every single time you get into your vehicle, whether it's your truck or you're just driving your Subaru or your Honda or whatever it is, and you rotate to get the seatbelt, fully turn your body towards the seatbelt and then fully turn the opposite way when you click. Most of us just aren't twisting enough throughout the day. That's why we have back pain and neck pain and shoulder pain. And so trying to find those little moments in the day. My other favorite one is the calf stretch. When you're standing up, next time you're filling up with fuel, or I do this in the grocery line a lot, is just step your feet about maybe, I don't know, 1.5 feet length apart. So 1 foot in front of the other, kind of like you're on 2 water skis. Bend and straighten your back knee without lifting the heel. You're going to feel such a great Achilles and gastroc stretch that for a lot of us, we just sit too much, whether you're driving a truck or sitting at a computer or on your couch watching Netflix, and that shortens the muscles in the backs of the legs. Now we have plantar fasciitis. Now we have knee pain. Now we're wearing orthotics, which is just masking the issue. What we need is to stretch those muscles, use those muscles. And so these are really easy, practical moves that you can do throughout the day. My last one, which is my favorite, and these are all on that 11 stretches, is half down dog. You don't have to get all the way down on the floor, but find a truck step, find a countertop, the back of a chair, put your hands on the chair, step your hips back, and then lean into your underarm and chest and stretch. You're going to feel that stretch from the heel of your foot all the way to your wrists, and probably maybe even a little bit of popping and clicking in your spine along the way as well, which is going to feel equally as good. So we all have 30 seconds to do any one of those moves. What if you use this 11 moves guide as a checklist? Okay, did that one today. Okay, did that one today. Okay, did that one today. You've just moved 11 times more than what you did the day previous. Now do that for 30 days. Do that for 60 days. Do that for a year. Imagine how you're going to feel. And remember, when we feel good, we make good choices.
That's awesome. I noticed on your website that you have a special pain relief cream. It's called Stiff Mother Trucker. It's 100% natural, paraben-free, gluten-free, sulfate-free, and artificial dye-free. What is it made of? It's free of everything.
So as you can tell, I like fun puns. So Stiff Mother Trucker. So from the yoga world, I spent 15 plus years using everyone else's pain cream. We'd always put it on people's neck in relaxation, but I always had a disclaimer. This is great, but it's greasy.
Yeah.
This is awesome, but you have to reapply it a lot. This one's great, but don't get it on your clothes because it's going to stain. This one is good, but if you have to watch, out from like sulfates and dyes and stuff, you probably don't want to use it. So I always had these disclaimers on products, and I always thought one day I'm going to create my own. Well, about 3.5 or 4 years ago, I met someone and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I love your company, Hope. Have you ever thought about a product?" And I was like, "Yeah." And simultaneously we said, "Pain relief cream." And so she connected me up with a US manufacturer. And I said, "Here's my laundry list. Here's all the things I don't want in the cream. And here are the things I want in it," because I had experience in herbs and essential oils and using so many different products in the natural health world and just running in the circles that I did. I knew what I wanted it to do. I knew what I wanted it to feel like, and I knew what I wanted in it, but the formulating thing, well, that's not for me. And so after about 6 or 8 trial runs, we came up with the formula. And one of the main ingredients is caspicum, which is a pepper extract. And for a lot of people, the reason why they have pain isn't necessarily because they've injured themselves. It's because they have inflammation. And so whenever there's an injury in our body, inflammation is actually a good thing because it protects and tries to heal the area. The problem is when we have chronic inflammation. Basically, it doesn't go away. And now we have chronic pain. And so the main purpose of the pain cream is to get rapid blood flow to that area of the body, get rid of the inflammation, and then also do a little bit of numbing to the topical nerves so that you kind of get that edge taken off. The number one thing I hear back from our users, and we have little old grandmas using our cream, we have truck drivers, pastors, you name it, using our cream, is that they can't believe how long it lasts. They're feeling it 2 or 3 hours later, many of them noticing the next morning they still have mobility. And that's because our main focus is getting rid of that inflammation fast and increasing blood flow as quickly as possible. And so for a lot of pain relief creams, their main ingredient is menthol. So it might be like a really powerful punch, but it's really just numbing things topically. And so we have 6 active ingredients. So your icy hots, your Bengays, all of those, they have 1 to 2, and it's usually menthol at like 10%. We have 6 active ingredients that work from the surface all the way down and try to get into your bloodstream. And so really we're trying to look at turning the corner with pain, because when you're in pain, when you feel stiff, tight, and sore, I don't know about you ladies, I don't want to move. And when we don't want to move, that's just going to increase the amount of pain we feel. I think this is the loop that many elderly people are in. They're in pain, so they don't move. Then the people around them cater to that and stop having them move. So now they're even more crippled than they were before, where we need to move. We need to do what Gil Hidley, who focuses on fascia, calls melt the fuzz. Every single morning, you need to get up and you need to melt the fuzz. And if you don't, it's like dust collecting on your clothes in the closet. More and more fuzz accumulates. So if a pain relief cream can help you melt the fuzz and help you want to move more, that's going to be something that you're just going to continue to do more and more and more and more. It's a great cycle to get into.
So if our listeners want to buy it, where do they look? Where do they buy it?
Yes. So you can go to our website, mothertruckeryoga.com. You can find us on Amazon, and you can find us in Love's travel stops across the country.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
Wow. That's great.
So, all right. So we have your website. Where can people follow you online? Do you have a online presence?
Yes. I tend to hang out on Instagram and Facebook the most. We are on other social platforms, but if you want some actual interaction with myself, I'm usually posting on there live regularly throughout the day. That is the 2 best places to get a hold of me. And it's really simple. Just Mother Trucker Yoga across all platforms. And you can check out what we're doing. I post regular videos and strategies and things that drivers and really everyday people can incorporate into their lives. We post updates, podcasts, and interviews such as this, where people can listen and find out more about what we're doing. And it's really just a fun place to communicate and connect.
That's great. That's great. Well, we'll make sure that we link to those places in our show notes. And gosh, Hope, we really appreciate you being on the show. You've been such a great guest.
Oh, thank you, ladies, so much. I'll leave you with this. No matter what age, no matter what gender, no matter what profession you have, the greatest asset we all have is our bodies. And what we feed them, no different than putting high quality premium fuel into your vehicle, is really going to determine the output, the quality of life that you get to live. And it's never too late to improve your health. It's never too late to improve your health where you get to reap the benefits. It's never too late to improve your health where you get to look back and go, look at all the things I did. And it's never too late to improve your health. So today and tomorrow and for all the days in the near future, you get to live the life that you have been dreaming of. It is never too late to improve your health.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you. We'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Wow. Hope sure has a lot of knowledge and experience. I loved how she talked about being able to stretch while sitting or standing at the fuel pump. It's hard to feel good physically when you're on a long car trip. So she had some good ideas.
Yes, she really sparked some ideas with me about how to get more movement into my everyday activities and stretch more. Like, I love the idea of doing a stretch both ways every time I buckle my seatbelt. And that's just a really great example of doing what you can when you can to squeeze in more fitness.
I remember when I used to do a lot of car trips going back and forth to see my parents, that getting out of the car and standing, pumping gas, I would be desperate to do something to get blood moving through my body. I remember sometimes doing like calf raises there. Yep. But anything you can do while you're in those breaks is really helpful. Same thing when you're sitting at your desk all day.
Well, that's what I was thinking about with my computer. You know, when you just sit at your desk for hour after hour trying to crank things out on the computer, all your blood ends up in the lower half of your body and not in your brain,
where it should be,
where you need it when you're in front of the computer. Or I need it anyway.
Yes, definitely.
I'm definitely going to, I don't know about setting my phone to beep every few minutes, but the Fitbit watch has every, at the 50, right before the hour, it goes zit, zit. And that's a great way to spend the next 10 minutes doing something.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Well, I would love to hear what our listeners think about today's episode and if they have any good ideas.
That'd be great. Yes, please share with us your experiences with exercising during the day. You can leave a message on our Becoming Ellie website or Facebook page or any of our social media, whatever is most convenient for you.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you. And if you are on Facebook, please consider joining our private Facebook group.
See you next time.
Until then, bye.
Bye-bye.